Not a good podcast.
Let's go!
Woo! Not a good podcast.
This is not a good podcast.
You're listening to Not a Good Podcast with PB and Johnny V, episode 10.
Woo! Number 10, baby.
Made it.
Did I say that prematurely?
Yeah, you did. You just jumped the gun.
I'm sorry. I'm so gosh darn excited.
Super excited. Episode 10.
We've
It's a
got
milestone.
we all came back from a bit of vacation, did we not?
Ramped and
Yeah.
amped.
I'm just ready for this. We pre-recorded a couple episodes.
Yep.
And this feels like we're doing it from scratch, doing it from first time.
I'm back home.
Yeah, our families are back,
Finally.
except you, Jay. I'm sorry.
Your family's still going?
I'm a one-man wolf pack anyway.
They're gone for a month.
They've been gone for a month.
Good.
I forgot how to grocery shop. So I've
He
just
ran
been,
out of clean underwear 3 weeks ago.
I've been living off cashews and apples. That's all that's left in the fridge.
And warheads that he
Cashews aren't
found in
the
his
fridge.
kid's room.
Cashews aren't in the
Oh
fridge.
my! He's been in our. He's been over like for 3 dinners.
God love
just
him.
this week.
He's had nothing but hot dogs
This
to
is his
eat.
4th dinner this week.
I started a GoFundMe
Love it.
asking for donations. Hey, how's everybody's week?
That was really good.
It was really good. It's good to be back to work and get back into the swing of things. Man,
Yeah.
we put a lot of miles on our vacation. It was long.
On a
man.
rental.
We went to go see the Ark up in Kentucky.
I can't believe that's the original arc.
I'll tell you, hey, my
Mount
I'll tell you
Ararat
something.
in Kentucky?
My
Wow.
wife can attest to this. I was more obsessed with the Amish that were on their Mecca there than I was the actual Ark itself. I mean, I know the story, but I mean, you don't see many Amish people,
Ever.
And so I finally got it. I wanted to talk to one the whole time. They just kept looking at us. My wife she wore a spaghetti strap, and they were just looking at her like, what in the world are you wearing? Like, look at this.
Oh my
Look
goodness.
at this harlot,
Man.
And then we
Scarlet letter.
ended up getting stuck in an elevator with one. And I said, now's my chance.
What did you say?
Did you ask him about vaccines?
I was like, so where are you from, buddy? It can only be one of 2 places, Ohio or Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's from Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
I'm impressed that they
wait,
make
how'd
their
he
own
get
clothes.
there?
I don't know, man.
Buggy. What if there's buggies outside and he came all
I
the
didn't
way
see
from...
one buggy, though. That's the weird thing. They must have been Mennonites.
Yeah.
They got electricity.
So it's like living outside in these Amish communities. There's just no electricity. So my wife's got a story. She's been hanging out with some homeless people lately.
Oh.
So she was waiting for, this was yesterday, she was waiting,
Homeless or Trustafarian?
homeless. There were definitely homeless people. She was waiting to get into the library, and it opens at 12. It was 11:55, and she's just walking through this horde of people at the entrance, and some lady was like, honey, the door's locked, they're not open. And she's just looking around, she's like, good God, they're all homeless. They're all waiting to go inside and use the bathroom and get in the AC. She didn't know what to do.
Oh, man.
They all had push carts and stuff. They had all their bags and stuff with
Get
them.
in line.
And she was like, wait in line. She's like, I don't know to go back to my car or just stand in line. She stood there with them.
I wonder if they all got library cards.
They do. And this one lady, she pulls out her phone. She's like, well, it's 12 o'clock. Just banging on the door. Open up. Let us in.
You know what?
And her phone was like 11:59. She's like, it's not 12.
I'll tell you something that's funny, man. I was doing a security detail one time down in Miami, and we were having to walk from one building to another with a client, and we had to walk underneath a bridge late at night. And so I sent a buddy of mine to do an advancement to just make sure, hey, we got to walk under a bridge, just make sure nobody's down there. It's going to get us.
Yeah.
And I had some time, and I decided, hey, I'll go down there with you, and we'll check it out. So we go down, and we look back up in under the bridge, and it's pitch black dark, but all you see is about 15 cell phones in there. Like, they're all homeless. but they all have cell phones playing Candy Crush. Like it's the weirdest thing, man.
So strange.
But they're homeless. But I mean, like, where do they send the cell phone bill
I
to?
don't know. With the price of home insurance going up, we might be homeless soon.
It's true, man.
We got a quote. I was like,
I'm almost in the 6-digit territory with insurance. It's like 10 grand a year.
yeah. I had to count how many sixes, how many digits, 6 digits is.
That's a lot of money for.
That's 5 digits, dude.
Wait.
Oh wait, start over, please, please don't.
Oh no!
Oh no, please, please don't, please don't use it. Please don't use it. Please don't use it. It's so embarrassing. Please,
Wait a minute.
please don't use it.
I know.
Where do you live?
Oh, I was like,
Please don't use that. I've ruined it. Start over.
no, it's
I just
so
did.
Good.
No, I don't want people to think that I'm an idiot.
That's too late.
Just think you're rich.
We're number 10,
Oh
bro.
man, please don't. We're gonna be talking about some like good stuff, and they're gonna be like, "This guy's an idiot. He doesn't know 10,000."
Use your hands, man, when you count.
Let's start it over. Let's start. Where are we? Please start it over.
Hey,
So
we have a
insurance-
very.
I don't want to waste his time. Please start that over.
We have I got you. We have a very extra special guest today.
Yes, we do.
Oh my goodness.
For number 10. This is our first.
X is the Roman numeral for 10.
Oh man, that's pretty
Right?
awesome.
This is
Can we get a math check on that? Since
there's
we're
10
Yes.
messing up our
digits right there.
I messed up. Okay.
Okay.
Let's move on.
But yes, sir, we have a special guest with us. He was recently on L.A. Marzulli's YouTube channel, and he's here with us now. He's going to talk some conspiracy. Well, do we call them conspiracy theories anymore?
I
Is
call
it
them conspiracy truths.
conspiracy truths?
Truthspiracies.
This guy's famous, Mr.
yeah.
X.
Mr. X, welcome to the Not a Good Podcast.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
So glad you're here, man.
Thank you.
He flew in for this.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself without revealing who you are. Just kind of like just give some your background of how long you've been doing what you've been doing.
Well, so I've been flying for about over 30 years. Got started in 1989. I wanted actually to be a farmer. It's kind of strange transition to go from farming to wanting to be a pilot. But started out wanting to be a farmer because I worked on a farm for middle school and high school years. And
We're in FFA.
I was, in fact, you're looking
me
at
too,
the
man.
president of 1988.
All right.
In
way.
a little
That's
town
cool,
in Maryland.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
What did you raise?
I had goats.
Okay.
And I worked on a farm that had some cattle, had some sheep, hogs,
That's cool.
cows,
man.
milked some cows.
That's a life.
Did it all.
Yeah, it is.
it's a hard life.
It's a hard life. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go down that path, but that was
Your
a
whole
life
family's
I-
doing that, right?
No, they're not. I didn't have any farmers in the family, which is the reason why I decided not to go into
Exactly
it.
what I thought. You didn't.
I knew there's no way I could buy that much land.
So you just were working as a kid on
Yeah.
a farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's some hard work.
It was.
And, I mean, for a kid,
Yeah.
that's hard work. I explained to them my first job was working at a feed and seed. And I'd be there early in high school for farmers, especially on the weekends. And they're farmers are tough, man.
That's hard work.
It
My
is.
wife was in FFA. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. She failed a question on a quiz in her class. What are the different types of hay? And she answered square bale and round bale. And what a bale is just a clump of
It's the same.
yeah, it's the same.
She's not wrong.
So what was the different? What was it? What was it supposed to be? Alfalfa and something else.
Timothy Clover.
Timothy Clover. She's like round and square.
Now, is FFA, is
Yeah.
that similar to 4-H?
It's pretty similar.
4-H club,
It is.
yeah.
FFA is actually sanctioned as part of like a high school program.
Okay.
So you can be an FFA in high school.
Okay.
4-H is kind of like on the sideline,
Gotcha.
but a little different, extracurricular.
During there was a project that was going on, and one of the classes during the day that was part of FFA, and this girl decided to do her project on it was like fowl, like birds, and hunting game. And so she got approval to bring a shotgun to school to show them like different techniques and stuff, and like brought all the FFA kids out and all this stuff.
Gosh.
And as she was up, giving her presentation, she was teaching how to track the bird and stay in front of it. And she shot off a round, dude. Freaked everybody out, man.
It's the best day of school.
Oh, man.
That FFA class.
It's funny.
You can't do that now.
No.
I mean,
way, man.
15 years ago. But back when I was in school, you could do that.
I remember in the 80s in agriculture class, we had a parking lot that was separate from most of the school parking, and it was all full of trucks.
Yes.
Yep.
And a lot of these guys had gun racks and guns in the racks.
Yep.
And they were sitting on school property and no one ever said anything to you.
Yep.
For pep rallies, we should drive tractors to school. And I'm not joking. Like, we'd decorate them and drive tractors to school, man. It's a different world.
A friend of mine had a tractor, but we were in
That's how I learned how to drive stick.
Fort Myers, and he had a tractor. Yeah.
It was a Ford. It was a blue Ford tractor, and I learned how to drive stick on a tractor. So
Crunch some gears.
Nice.
Yeah. So flying for 30 years. You didn't do military experience or the military route. You just went straight into commercial.
Yeah. So I started in '89, and that was right after Gulf War #1.
Yeah.
So the bases were being drawn down. I think it called the BRAC Commission. They realigned bases. There wasn't much in the way of flying slots then. So
Okay.
I wanted to do the military route, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I decided to pursue it just the civilian route.
Did you start flying over the farms, like with fertilizer? Like, did you like that low
Fumigation.
Ag spraying?
fumigation?
No. I didn't do any ag spraying. No, I just my route was basically once I got my commercial license, I started flight instructing.
Okay.
So, flight instructing for a bunch of years, probably 8 or 10 years, and then I got my first airline job.
So I'm just trying to set the basis that you're not a nut job.
I don't like to think myself as a nut job, but
I mean,
my wife might disagree.
Your wife does probably, but you guys are very happily married. I just want to reveal that this is a normal guy. He's got a career,
30-year career.
30-year career instructor with a major airline,
Yep.
and you've flown pretty much all over the world, or like have you circumnavigated the globe?
Circumnavigated, no, but I've done Europe, South America, Mexico, Canada, and of course domestic U.S.
How many miles would you say you have total?
miles? I don't know, but hours is over 10,000, probably 12,000 hours maybe.
Wow.
But I'm not sure about miles.
I don't know if that sounds like a lot.
30 years
That's-
worth,
yeah.
right? I mean, that is a lot, right? Like,
Yeah, and some guys fly more. Some people like to fly like as much as they can, and I like being home and
Yeah.
Sure.
kind of being a family guy. So I don't try to fly as much as I can.
Yeah. And you have kids,
Yeah.
and they think you're normal.
Yeah, I think. Although my daughter Kelly might tell you something different.
Yeah.
My kids think I'm weird right now.
Yeah.
Because you're recording a podcast, or
No, it's just
in general?
It's just the stage that they're
I
in.
try to be funny in front of them, and it's sort of like, I don't know, honey, what would you say? Like when I try to act dumb and stuff, they just sort of ignore me because they're just like, that's just what Dad does. Just runs around in his robe, you know.
So Johnny did a back to school picture with his kids.
Don't.
It's not public. It's not public.
My wife sent it to our
but
family.
your wife sent the photo to the family. It's Johnny with just a shirt on, and his kids in the uniforms just taking a picture with him. She forwarded it onto her whole family. It's the funniest thing. I was like, don't ever let that get out of your
T-shirt,
phone.
daddy whities.
And I was
Have a good day at
I was
school,
like,
kids.
Don't share that with anyone. And he's like, my wife already did. He's amazing. That's awesome. So tell
love you, babe.
Tell us a little bit of your conversation with LA and like how that went. We're a big fan of his.
Yeah, I'm a big fan too. He was really interested to find out what I'm seeing on board of these airplanes that I'm flying, especially after the incident from a few months ago with the lady who thought she saw something in the back of the airplane with the reptilian eyes or something. So he was just asking about what I've seen, and though I haven't seen any of the actual eyes, nothing behind the glasses. One thing I have seen a lot more of the last couple of years is people wearing hoodies, and they got these big sunglasses that are really dark that they wear with a hood up the whole time. And it's just kind of strange because you got an already darkened cabin, and when they'll get up to go to the lab, and there's still the hoodies on and dark sunglasses and a dark cabin, and they walk to the lab. And every time I see that, I think it's kind of bizarre because I'd be afraid of tripping. If someone's foot sticking out, and you'd fall face first in the aisle. But sometimes a flight might have a couple of these folks. Sometimes it be none, but they're usually kind of tall. Usually they're male. But
Do they do that at nighttime too?
Nighttime, daytime, it doesn't matter. I see the hoodies and the sunglasses, a lot more of that. And it could be kids who are kind of withdrawn from things, kind of being private. But one thing I noticed,
celebrities maybe
could be celebrities. Yeah, I see that too, and they try to go incognito, and I see that.
Well, these guys are like riding coach.
Yes,
They do have to take those off
Yeah.
to go through security, though, right?
I asked the TSA guy about that, and he did say yes. They have to see the full face, so they do have to remove those glasses.
But the hoodie can stay up.
I guess the hoodie can stay up as long as they get to take the glasses off and they can verify the face with the ID.
See, I mean, how long are they actually looking at the face when you go through? I mean, you're herding cattle through
Well,
there.
I went
right?
through TSA pre-check. I didn't have to take off my hat or my sunglasses on top of my head, like on top of my hat.
Yep.
And
Got a
I was
little more
surprised about
leeway.
that. I was super surprised about that.
Yep. Would you? What are the age ranges that you think you see these people?
They're usually young, upper teens, I would say to 20s.
Okay.
Maybe into the 30s, but they're pretty young. And one thing that's a characteristic that I've just noticed, because I stand at the outside the cockpit door when they're leaving and just say goodbye to all my passengers. A lot of times when these folks walk past the door, they won't give any eye contact. They won't even acknowledge your existence. So I'll say goodbye or thank them for flying, and they'll just keep the head down, make the turn at the door, and out they go. And it's just weird because when I see a hoodie coming with dark glasses, I can just anticipate they're not going to say a word to me, not going to look at me, and they don't.
So do you try extra hard when those people come through?
I
And
do.
you're like, Hail Hydra.
I do. I do, and I never.
What'd you say?
Hail Hydra. Whisper it under your breath.
Or you hold up the Spock
Yes,
as they're
yeah.
walking by?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that reminds me. Wasn't it like the TV show in the 80s, V?
Yes.
Remember that TV show
Oh,
V,
yeah, I remember
where
this.
they'd get the
Yeah.
victory sign like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And it was aliens underneath.
They
of
were the
like,
shapeshifters.
yeah, they were
They were.
lizards underneath
Yeah.
of human skin.
Yeah.
Weird.
What's your take on what did you say her name was? Tiffany Gomas?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. So actually today, we have confirmation that the lady's name is Tiffany Gomas, Gomas. And literally like 10 hours ago, this is from Daily Mail. Just kind of reading through the article. I guess she met him at the door of her house and basically said, what do we got here? No one knows anyone else's story and no one should judge. No one knows what it's like. She's referring to being gone viral now from the whole incident. Then she says later, they're staking out my house. They're staking out my neighbors. They're going through my mail. And then she even says,
I feel bad for her.
there was a line up here that I saw. It
Andrew
says
Dawson,
basically,
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says basically everything that you hear in the mainstream media is inaccurate. What that?
What does that-
I
what
mean,
does
there's
that
a
mean?
lot. There's a lot being said right now. I
The
don't know what that means.
mainstream media has a narrative that she was out, like she was taking shrooms. She's,
She didn't look like
Drunk.
somebody though that was. I mean, she looked very cognizant that. I mean,
yeah.
she's very well aware that things were going on.
Yeah.
So how long have you been aware of the hooded people, the glasses people, just since that came out?
I've noticed it a lot more since then, but I was paying attention to it before that.
Yeah.
It seems strange to me. When that incident happened, I thought, wow, there's got to be something to do with these people with the hoods and glasses. I know they're not all, but
Sure.
there's something weird there.
So I put on my sunglasses when I just want to sleep, and like the cabin lights turn on and off, which I hate it when you guys do that. Thank you so much.
Especially flying in at night, man.
it's like
Oh.
2:30 in the morning, and I know the drink cart is passing me. You don't have to turn on the light, but I forgive you. I know it's part of your job.
You know,
Actually, you're probably not doing the steward, like the
Yeah.
flight attendants are doing it.
In fact, they tell us we don't touch their lights.
Yeah.
That's their space. The forward of the door is ours. Behind the door is theirs.
Man, I have been cursing you guys under my breath
I
for
know.
years.
Yeah. Can you give us your radio voice to the cabin?
What?
like,
Can you say something like
we're gonna have to make a emergency landing and water, something. Whatever. Just something horrible, but just make it sound really, really pleasant.
why you're so dark, man?
I know.
It doesn't matter because his voice is going to be covered
It
up
is
anyways.
covered, yeah.
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Captain speaking. Please make sure your seatbelts are securely fastened this morning because we're going to try something.
I bet you so badly always
So,
want to
hey,
say
I've
that.
always wanted to say that. I get in big trouble for
You
that.
ever had any problems on an airplane before?
Like drop kick someone in the aisle.
No, I'm talking about mechanical issues.
All mechanical?
Yeah.
Smoke. We had smoke in the cockpit one time. Had to divert. I think we were going, we were headed westbound going toward LA, I believe, and got smoke in the cabin. Started smelling really rancid, and the smoke started burning our eyes. We had to put on the mask and everything and diverted into Albuquerque.
So was everyone in the cabin, or like, did they have their masks on too?
No, they didn't. In fact, I think the flight attendants did not smell anything back there. It was just in the flight deck
okay.
only. But we were smelling it pretty strong. So
How
we
many
went into
people up front
Albuquerque.
with you? Is it just you and your co-pilot? Is there someone in the back behind you?
No, not anymore. Now it's just two pilots. But when I first got started, it was on the 727 and 747, the L-1011. They all had a flight engineer that sat sideways, and that's where I got my start. Was sitting sideways, just controlling the hydraulics, electrics, and
Okay.
pressurization and all that stuff.
Don't call me Shirley. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing, just the cockpit in an airplane.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. We talked about this briefly a few weeks ago, and you actually showed me a picture. But I'm really interested in chemtrails. You know, you showed us as you were flying into LA, you could see
1,000 feet above.
Well, yeah, but you could see clouds that you said were fake, right? I think I've seen these types of clouds, especially driving home on the 75 coming south through Georgia. I mean, it just looks like, and they just stay there forever. Could you give us a little bit of background on, chemtrails, what your thoughts are on those?
I definitely think that chemtrails are something that's happening. I think that the thought initially was that there's like a fleet of jets that are going up there with this tank full of some kind of solution. They're spraying it over us.
Yep.
And I think that maybe that's possible, that something that's going on. But sometimes when I see such a grid network of these trails all over the place, it just makes me think this has to be done on a much more wide basis than just some company that's being contracted. So it makes me wonder if it was being put in jet fuel, because then no one ever know.
Right.
Whoa.
It would just be blown out your back of your engine, and no one even would know. No one even would question it.
What do they currently put in jet fuel that you know of?
The only additive I know of is this stuff called PRIST. I think it's PRIST, and it's basically an anti-icing agent that's put into the fuel, and it basically lowers the fuel freezing point, so the fuel tank can get really super cold and not freeze.
And it doesn't affect the fuel economy.
No, and it helps the fuel flow better, so you don't get ice crystals.
Does it burn differently than normal? Like if you weren't to have that in there?
No.
Have you noticed
And
a
they've been using it for
difference?
decades.
Have you noticed a difference in the 30 years of when you're flying, the condensation coming off of the wings? Has that increased?
Yes. It used to be contrails. What used to be called contrails would be what you'd see way up high, the airplane flying. You'd see like a short trail behind each engine.
Yeah.
And it would evaporate quickly behind the engine, like within a few miles, and it would disappear to nothing.
Yep.
And
Well,
no matter the elevation
No matter. I mean, if
or the temperature.
you're flying too low, you won't get a
won't see it.
contrail. You have to go up where it's really cold, so that you get, because what's happening is you're introducing condensation into that really cold atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it instantly hits the dew point, and boom, you got a cloud. So you're basically getting a nice long cloud behind an engine is what you're doing.
So someone would say, well, global warming. but that means it would be warmer up there and you wouldn't see it necessarily.
Yeah, but I did notice something just 2 weeks ago. I was flying along and the airplane crossed overhead, and when I looked at it really closely, it was a full wing width condensation trail coming off the back of the wing. You never used to see that full wing condensation, because that means when air flows over a wing, you get a temperature drop. It's just real short physics here. Real quick temperature drop on the wing, so it cools that air really rapidly, and so you get an instant cloud form. You'll see that on takeoff in some climates where it's humid and cool, but you never see it up at altitude of 40,000 feet because it's just too dry and cold up there. But yet, the one flew over me the other day at 35,000 feet, and it had a full wing span width condensation trail. So that tells me that either it's warmer up there or there's more moisture up there. So then I'm going to tie this into something I just found out. Did you know about the Hunga Tonga, that's kind of a weird name, Hunga Tonga volcano that erupted out in the middle of Pacific? It's over near Fiji about a year and a half ago.
Oh, is this due to dang, yes, go ahead.
Well, this thing erupted, and the press didn't hardly say anything about it. I mean, it was mentioned a little bit, but then nothing.
Yeah.
It comes to find out, NASA even has reports on this. You can look it up on NASA's site. That thing put like 100 trillion gallons of water in the upper atmosphere. It blew so hard into the upper atmosphere that it went into the stratosphere, mesosphere, and I think mesosphere. It's way up there. So it injected so much moisture in the upper atmosphere, they said it'll linger for possibly 5 years.
What?
So that just made a light bulb go off. Possibly 5 years. So that made a light bulb go off, because I was thinking when that plane went overhead and all that condensation on the full width of the wing, then that tells me there's a lot of condensation up there, and it's probably could have aided to that, because there used to never be that kind of condensation at 40,000 feet.
Whoa.
Because you never see full wingspan condensation trails like you're seeing now. Now you look up and you see these
long. This one is really long. If I can, I'm going to pull up.
And that made it all the way over. I mean, if you were flying across the U.S. So, I mean, whereabouts were you at when you saw that?
So guys, look at this.
That was near Texas. Near
so
Dallas.
man,
look at this video up here. This is what he sent. I'm going to just zoom in.
Is this what you saw here?
Yes,
This
that's
is it.
That's it. You never used to see that full width.
Wow.
And look how long that is. Look at it just linger.
So describe to him what he's seeing. So basically, he is flying underneath. This plane's coming right overhead, just like he described, about 35,000 feet right now, and this contrail is behind it, and it is truly the. How big would you say that wingspan is?
That's 2 engines.
Is that a commercial?
Yeah, it is. That's probably 737. So
wow.
I'm not sure what that is. Maybe 150 feet wingspan.
Wow.
You know what I could do is I can just screenshot this.
What is that in the back? Can you start it over? Did you see the?
I did see something like, I'm trying to.
But it used to be normal. You'd see a little bit out of the back of the engines, but not over the whole wing.
Right.
So there's a lot of moisture up there.
That was the entire span.
Yeah. And when you're seeing these
And this is like 100-mile long.
What's the speed you're going at this elevation here?
around, well, I'd say in knots, 440 knots, so probably 500 plus miles per hour.
Okay.
And the other plane was doing the same, so we were closing at over 1,000 miles per hour closure.
So how long did that trail last for?
I went on for miles.
Wow.
30, 40, 50 miles.
So you don't think do you think there's chemicals in that, or no? You just think that that's just a...
In that case, I think that's mostly water vapor that's up in the upper atmosphere. But I believe there's two things going on. I think there's chemicals being put up there too. I think aluminum oxide. I've seen some websites that do like I think it's geoengineeringwatch.org. I think was one that I've looked at, and they've talked about the experimentation with aluminum oxide nanoparticles. Kind of interesting here, nanoparticles. They've been experimenting putting that in jet fuel for a long time.
What do you think the purpose is?
Well, they tell you the purpose is to reflect out sunlight, to keep the sun from hitting the earth, to keep global warming from occurring.
Sounds like it's a magnifying glass to make it hotter.
But what's actually happening is it's reflecting the Earth's heat back to the Earth, and it's having a reverse effect. So whether they really knew that in the beginning and said the opposite,
like a solar blanket.
Like a solar blanket.
They needed evidence to push the the funding of global warming research and all this, and taxing it. So, did you tell me before there's barium and aluminum?
Yeah, I haven't.
That's another
Barium and aluminum. I know aluminum oxide. They're kind of admitting that that's being used, but barium is what I've heard. I have not seen anything that says that, but I've seen people. In fact, LA thinks it's barium and aluminum.
So why barium?
I really don't know because it's very poisonous
yeah.
to the human body. Aluminum's not good for us either, and it's not good for any plant life.
And the element name symbol is Ba, and then Al.
Yeah.
Oh, for ball.
Yeah.
Ball.
Yeah.
It's actually, I've heard pastors say Baal.
Baal.
Baal. Yeah.
Baal.
And
The rednecks say Baal.
I say Baal.
Baal, hey.
Baal, hey.
Your wife knows that one.
She knows that. Is that the round one? And explain what Baal is from biblical reference.
Baal or Baal, Baal of Peor, Baal Peor, either way, was actually like a local deity who was worshipped by the Moabites and actually the Israelites at one time, who thrived off of, child sacrifice and like sexual immorality. And I don't know, it's just pretty graphic. Who would basically just be sitting on this throne and completely demonic. But this bull was it could be made out of gold and bronze and precious metals. And what they would do is this pagan would have his hands and arms out, and there'd be a fire underneath inside of this statue that'd be so hot. And what they would do is these people would come and lay their babies down on the altar of Baal or Baal. It's very sad. It's very sad. It's very demonic. The crazy thing is, there is this archway of Baal. I want to say they found over in Iraq or not Afghanistan, but Iraq or Iran. And if you look in New York City, we put up a archway of Baal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Recently, I don't know when we did it, but it's in New York. Jonathan Cahn actually talked about it in one of his books, The Harbinger, I believe. Mm-hmm. But you can pull it up and actually see it.
Baal was built in Samaria. It came from Samaria, and they had a house of Baal in Israel. And and this is where Elijah, this story of Elijah kind of defeating the prophets of Baal and Mount Carmel.
Yep.
So a little tangent there, but it's fascinating how are they changing the engines? You showed me some pictures of like an A and B of what the engines look like in the same plane, and it kind of looks like a nozzle at the end, right?
Yeah, more modern jet engines have like a nozzle in the back that's it's supposed to be for reducing noise, but this makes me wonder if possibly this could be also used for more effective spraying or aerosolization of what's coming on the back of the engine if they're using jet fuel to do this.
Sure.
And it's all just speculation, but I know they've been experimenting with putting these kind of additives in jet fuels in a form of nanoparticles for some time.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd tell us if they're doing it.
I want to show you guys a picture here. This is Disney contrails, and it's shaped
like a pentagram.
It's a pentagram that's right above Disney.
Wow.
What are the chances that were to happen with that type of cross traffic above Orlando?
That's nuts.
Do you ever see them cross like that?
Well, traffic does cross over cities like that, but not in a shape like that. It's
orchestrated.
Yeah, the comics orchestrated.
Let me ask you this: what companies do you think are involved? Let's say they are. What's the particle that they're putting in the fuel, or like what is made up the chemtrail? What is the substance?
Well, they're saying it's aluminum oxide, silver oxide, and possibly barium.
So what companies do you think are involved I mean, is this something like a the government contracted type of?
Well, yeah, it might be. It might be that kind of government money that's sort of hidden, that you never see where the money goes.
The black budget.
Yeah, it could be that sort of budget. Because I think people would, if they knew this, and I don't know if it's going into fuel. I have to say it, I don't know. But with the way the grid network looks up there, a lot of days, there's so many of these trails everywhere. It just makes you think it's more than just someone jumping in a turboprop and going out and misting.
Do you see this almost every time you fly?
Yes.
Wow. And have you noticed it becoming increasing more and more over the years? Over 30 years, would you say you see it more now than you have?
For sure. Yeah, and even when I got into flying 30 years ago, it was still the contrails that you'd expect. They evaporate behind the engine after a couple of miles, and then they just disappear into nothing. And now they hang out for a long time, and then you notice that these clouds way up 30, 40,000 feet. They almost look like cobwebs. And they're not.
So those are the fake ones.
Yes, they're the fake ones. If you look in a textbook, like a meteorology textbook, you won't see clouds that look like that. They're not in there. Maybe modern textbooks, but
so you wouldn't classify it as a cirrostratus, cumulonimbus, like any of that.
Well, it's in the Cirrus.
Nerd.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know that.
Yeah.
It's up in the Cirrus.
May not know my numbers, but I definitely know my clouds.
It's up in the Cirrus layer, but no, there's no clouds in the textbook. Looks like that. These things are. It's like it hangs out. This mist hangs out. It spreads and creates this blanket.
And how long does that normally last? They're like the ones you saw that were in LA. How long would you say those last?
Oh, they can hang out for a whole day. I mean, they just kind of slowly over time, they just keep spreading out and forming a real thin film where it almost looks like the blueness to the sky is gone. It just looks kind of almost like a grayish haze up there. Like years ago, you used to be able to look up most days here in Florida and you'd see the contrast between the blue and the beautiful white clouds. That contrast was really, really defined.
Yep.
And many days now, it's not defined anymore. It's more of a hazy, kind of murky look.
Do you remember during COVID and the skies were clear, like when no one was flying? Did you hear that?
No.
Okay. I just made it up.
You had me.
I remember people saying that Venice waters were clear, I did
hear that. Yeah.
The traffic was.
Well, I mean, they shut everybody down for 2 weeks to stop the curve.
Okay. So I do remember this because some of my friends were just talking about all this cloud seeding and all that stuff, and then I look up. I'm like, it's really clear. There's nothing up there.
Let's start referring to it as Charlie Vector 19, just so we don't get canceled here.
I think it's too late for that.
Okay. Scamdemic.
Scamdemic. Oh. So they've been manipulating weather in California above LA. Were you talking about that when we were talking to Mr. X?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're doing so much in California. I mean, those people out there are so oblivious to. I mean, we're weirdos
even the
compared.
smog.
Yeah. No. I think out there, I think that these elites are like, oh, here's some. I don't want to say the word idiot, but here's some gullible people that we can just do whatever we want on, and they're gonna be like, hey, as long as it's good for the planet, who cares, man? But it's like, look at your streets. You've got a big homeless problem going on. There's needles in the street, but it doesn't matter as long as it's like environment wise.
Yeah. Jay, what's it called with those frequency waves that kind of pulse through the air? Is that HARP? DARPA?
I believe so. Yeah.
HARP.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what kind of helps spread it around? Or what's the purpose of HARP?
I think HARP, if I'm not mistaken, you could probably, they're like weather controlling type of organization, right? Man-made weather type.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, they beam high amounts of energy in the ionosphere.
Yeah.
And I think they're actually, it's been said they're possibly using that to create some of these clouds that assemble into this weird shapes.
Like a wave.
Like waves. They might be able to pulse it in there and actually create clouds. And I think they're directing this into the ground to make earthquakes too.
Oh, I believe it.
But what's the point of that?
Good question. I don't know. It's
a weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, you look at that, you think we could use it as a weapon, but also, I mean, these world elites, and we talked about this on past couple episodes. I don't know, have we talked about the population control? I mean, it's like I think that part of this atmospheric, stuff has to do with some sort of population control. Eventually,
I think so too.
I think they're weapons. Like Senegal, every hurricane comes from Senegal, like
Sure,
right off
man.
the coast, from like the same city.
as soon as June hits, it's like, oh, just look towards Senegal, and
Yeah.
there's 3 coming off the coast.
Well, in fact, when I talked with LA, I asked him if he realized how much geoengineering is going on over top of Los Angeles, and his response was every day. He said they hit us every day, and he said it's barium and aluminum every day. And he brought up something that I didn't know. He said it's a fire accelerant. Barium and aluminum are fire accelerants. And that just makes you wonder, when they're hitting California so hard and they have such wildfires out there, maybe there's a purpose behind the barium and aluminum being sprayed. If that's
Wow.
Now, why would they do that in that state? Like, that's their state. It's like liberal controlled,
More government funding, I think,
Illuminati
like-
controlled.
When you're pushing a one world government, one random state doesn't really matter that much all of a sudden.
Yeah. You're talking before we started about this population control and some research that you've run into.
Yeah, just I've heard of this report called the Daigle Report. It's really kind of mysterious. This company apparently is funded by the Department of Defense and some other countries funded also. But they put out forecasts for governments for how much military need they have and like how many armored vehicles they have in their fleets and all that. And they put these numbers out there and make that publicly available. Well, one thing they did was, and I think it was 2017, they published this report that was the world population forecast. And it's kind of troubling to read because it showed between 2017 and 2025, which was kind of the end of the report, that in the United States, there was going to be I think it was a 68% reduction in U.S. population by 2025. And the UK was going to be an even bigger reduction. It was going to be the Western countries. It was USA, Australia, Canada. It's the countries they're mostly were the free Western countries. And like Mexico stayed pretty well stable. China was pretty stable. So it just makes you wonder, these guys are being funded by DoD money. What was the basis of this report to show this kind of a population drop?
Yeah.
But this report, it's going to be hard to find now. You can find it in a few places. I think DuckDuckGo, you can find it, but they pretty much scrubbed it off the internet.
Wow.
But it makes you wonder, but 2025 is only 2 years away. So
I mean,
what would cause a population
We
drop
keep
like
on
that?
hearing, like Kamala said, population control
Yeah, Freudian
with
slip there.
vaccines. Like, you mean helping the population?
But let's look at all the. My wife just texted and said the rapture would probably cause a huge.
Oh, that'll do it.
What? What's Agenda 2030? Is that part of it?
Agenda 2030, I think, has to do with the new global reset, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That number's been used like everywhere. 2030 seems like that's their key number.
Yeah.
That's their key year.
Yeah. I've heard they need 7 years to get us used to aliens and have us work with certain ones. And by the time, rapture happens,
We talk about, Revelation talks about, is it Revelation or Ezekiel, the 7 years of burning weapons? I mean, because of peace.
aliens
Who
could be
knows?
burning
Hey,
them.
hey,
I mean, not
know
the
what I mean?
aliens, the fallen angels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
You guys ever heard of Patrick Wood? He does I think he does some prophecy stuff.
Yeah.
Does some talks with a couple of different guys I've listened to. But Patrick Wood said something. He was on with Tom Hughes last week. And Patrick Wood made a really good comment that really stuck with me. And he said, Satan knows that he's got his man that he'll put in place for 7 years.
yeah.
He says, how much of that 7 years do you think he's going to use putting the system together?
Oh, 100%.
Not going to use any of that. I mean,
I
he's
think the
going to have his
system's already
system
put it
ready.
together.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's
Like he's ready for it.
yeah.
Right.
the building blocks are being laid right now, and that's why we're seeing this stuff assembling. Because when that clock starts, he's going to be ready to go.
I think he's tried every generation, like the world wars.
Yep. Well, I think that he's because no man knows the time or the day or the hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Satan has always had a guy on deck, always.
Yeah.
You know, so
It could have been the same guy. He just
could be
not
living
really.
still. I don't know. No, I think
Are they definitely are they part? What? Yeah. What's the background of the Antichrist?
I think they're possessed. I think the Antichrist is
possessed
by Satan.
by Satan himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he could just pick whoever.
Because people think, and I heard this one time, it makes perfect sense, that your average person doesn't get, especially Christians, don't get attacked by Satan himself. I mean, Satan's not everywhere the way that God is. I mean, it's probably very unlikely that any of us have ever really had a run-in with Satan, but definitely one of his demonic entities.
Yeah.
Satan is influencing the top world powers, right?
Yeah.
It's a chess game. He's maneuvering these world powers. He's always had a seat somewhere.
And
it's
he can always give more power, and he can give
Right.
more wealth and more control.
Sure.
And, yeah.
like there's Satan's always
That's
had
his currency.
throne somewhere in the earth. You know,
Yeah.
in the Bible it talks about that it was in Pergamum. That's where his seat was, right? So right now,
Where's that?
Pergamum was in, Ephesus, maybe?
Ephesus?
Ephesus,
That sounds right.
I think. Don't hold me to that.
We're gonna fact check that.
Definitely
We're gonna come back next,
fact check me.
next
But
episode.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this though. What they did was they found the temple of the actual throne, and they reconstructed it,
Well, that's
or
smart.
deconstructed it and reconstructed it in the Berlin, the Museum of Berlin.
Yeah.
And so right now there's talk of them deconstructing it and reconstructing it back in it's in Turkey. So it was Ephesus was in Turkey, I believe, right? Asia Minor.
Asia
So
Minor.
yeah, so they're thinking like Turkey is like, we want it back. We want it back. I mean, if you look, I mean, everything's sort of returning to the Middle East, right? I've always heard as well. It's like, if you want to see where we're at in biblical prophecy, Bible prophecy, just look towards Israel. Look at the Middle East. One last question before we finish this up. Who is your pick right now, do you think, or has got a good chance that you think might be the Antichrist? I firmly don't believe that we're going to be here we're going to be raptured out of here. But like, who's like your top pick?
You're now tuning in to the Not a Good Podcast Antichrist Draft
Yes. Yeah.
2023 edition.
I'll put some money down on this.
Was that John Tesh that wrote that? Anyway, continue.
This is John Tesh Radio.
All right.
Who you got?
Who you got?
Give us your
guess I'll
top three.
All right. I'll put my money, I think on Musk.
Ooh,
Elon Musk.
Whoa.
Okay.
I think so. He's kind of weird. There's some weirdness about him, and I don't trust him.
But there's a side
But the
that
Babylon
people-
B-Boys had him on talking about Christ and
But they kind of talked him into
yeah.
saying he believed in
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the devil believes in Jesus.
Yeah.
He
Believes that Jesus is.
He's got SpaceX.
Yep.
He just renamed Twitter X. And X in the Bible I've read is not really good. In fact,
But
it's
just
always
like to
related
say-
to the devil.
just like to say that we are interviewing Mr. X right now, but it is a good.
Oh, good
This is
point.
good X.
This is a good
point.
X. It's an X for 10, 10th episode. Anyway, yes.
All right, next episode.
Hey, have
I'll
you seen?
name change?
So I think it's
Next
good that
episode.
we're ending with the X. What do you have?
I have two. Number one, I don't want to say number one and number two. I think they're both tied for number one, to be honest with you. I know it probably doesn't make sense. But Yuval Noah Harari would be number one in that lineup, I guess. And number two would be the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia,
Ooh, yeah.
or the Crown Prince of Jordan. Those are my three.
God, Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
I think it's going to be an alien. like a quote unquote alien.
That would be the beast, I think, for me.
Yeah. Well, like,
I think the Antichrist will
or it's got to be like a crossbreed with
well,
an alien.
Well, I think the Antichrist will have. Well, here's the thing about Elon Musk, right? Is we're doing these chips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing these chips, right, in your head. Who's to say that doesn't tweak DNA and splice DNA?
Oh, yeah.
And if there's anybody here on this planet that's going to be lining up to get these Neuralinks, it's going to be people like Saudi Crown Prince. Like these.
Yeah.
Some people I can't name, but
Yeah.
but anyway, so that's my pick. I think it's because number one, I mean, he's not going to be really a lover of women, right? If you look at Noah, like Yuval Noah Harari, he's homosexual. He hates Israel, even though he's Jewish. I think he's got a Muslim background as well. I know he's Jewish, but I think he's got some sort of Muslim background as well. So, yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah. He should.
Jay, do you have one?
I don't know if this would be the Antichrist or the false prophet or what, but old Willie Gates has really got
Bill
me
Gates.
interested
You think
in
so?
what he's got going on.
I think he wants it. I think he wants it bad.
It's like, please pick me.
Pick me, Satan.
He'll probably see the Antichrist working and want to steal it.
He's like,
Steal that thunder.
I got something better for you.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Well,
I think you've
I
got
think
a beef with him.
Doesn't
man,
he
because
own the most farmland in America? Did we
Yeah,
talk about
he
this?
does.
Yeah, we did.
He does.
You've got beef with
Farmer Bill.
Bill, I think.
Well, Billy's got some skeletons in a closet. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Does.
100%. You can't do research on him on Google. They scrub everything. Well,
Word.
we're going to go into a next episode. And the next episode, I want to talk about some things that you've seen in the air. If we could do that, and what's some other topics, Jay, that we're going to be?
Well, I think we're definitely going to be discussing the UFOs and UAPs, DARPA, and definitely get some input on AI. We've had a lot of updates. There was a congressional hearing. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on in the
Oh,
world
yeah.
that we need to talk
Oh,
about.
I think one thing that we haven't touched on that I would love to get your thoughts on would be CERN. I know we talked a little bit offline,
Oh, yeah.
opening up portals and things of that nature. So
Have we talked about Project Bluebeam?
Oh no, we'll bring that up.
Something to think about. Well, that's it for Not a Good Podcast. Remember to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review and join us next time for our special second part episode with Mr. X.
You've been listening to Not a Good Podcast. Tune in next time